Ball game. Let's go ahead and beat the Mariners. First game is gonna be Tuesday. We're still waiting to decide what time it's gonna be on, but it's root for the Astros. Guys, it's playoff baseball, and we're gonna be talking about this and more on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, while you're watching the Mets versus Padres, where can they find you at on Twitter?
Well, they can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
Brett, I think you've got something on your ear. It's a little shiny. You might want to go check it before the umpires come in. Check it.
Well, actually, that was red hot, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Apparently, Andrew McCutchen has squashed all rumors out there in the baseball world.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Make sure you keep on subscribing to us. Make sure that you listen to us on your way to work, on your way from home from work, whatever it is, on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. We are your number one source for all Astros talk. So I know that there's going to be a lot of stuff going on over the next week or so. A lot of Mariners fans are going to be coming in and trolling us and everything. But guys, we have one of the best teams in baseball, and I'm excited to see whether it's Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, Lance McCullers, or if it's Justin Verlander, then Lance McCullers and Framber Valdez. Whatever the rotation they throw out there, these are going to be some of the great games. So the couple games that are kind of going to be trap games, I would think be the first home game for the Seattle Mariners. Like I talked about in yesterday's podcast, this is the first time they've played a home game there in 21 years in playoffs. So they're going to be ready. They're going to be roaring. And I think the Mariners are going to rally behind that. And I know on the Talking Stros podcast earlier with Brandon, he was a little bit concerned about Luis Castillo after they shut down who did they play? It was the Blue Jays. After he shut down the Blue Jays lineup, he's worried that he's going to give the Astros some trouble. But I'm still going to go with the fact that they've been 2-0 in the past 5 ALDS going after 2 games. So I think that's what's going to happen here. What do you think, Brett?
I really don't know. Like I said, I'm not into predicting it. I'm going to hold my line here. Okay, I'm going to stay consistent. The Astros have the best pitching staff going into the series, bar none. Okay, they have a better lineup, top to bottom, I believe, against the Mariners. And if they go out there and take care of business the way they know how to, if Justin Verlander can keep the ball in the yard, if the defense can back him up, if guys like Jeremy Pena, even Yuli Gurriel contributes. You see guys like Jake Myers, whoever's in center field, and your big hitters, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman. If these guys in this lineup do what we know to do, Kyle Tucker, then the Astros, I don't think, have a hard time beating Seattle. Now, we played the White Sox last year. We went to Chicago and we lost that game. It was a big, blowout. They had the crowd going. They turned the lights out. They did all that stuff, right? Kind of like you were talking about.
Right.
And I don't think that Seattle's going to walk away with this series without a win under their belt. I mean, I really don't want them to get to a second win because I don't want to see a Game 5 in an ALDS because even though it's at home, that, those guys really at that point would have nothing to lose. But you really got to start talking about how much pressure is on the Astros because they're going for their 6th straight ALCS. And I don't sense any pressure from the players. Now, they may feel it. They are doing a very good job hiding it if they do. But after my conversation with Ryan Stanikin, if you missed earlier the conversation, go check it out. And it's on audio now as well. Ryan Stanek and this pitching staff is so confident, not only in what they do, but what the hitters do. And I just think, Eric, at the end of the day, the better team wins, and that is the Houston Astros. It doesn't mean Seattle won't give up a fight. It doesn't mean Castillo and Logan and all these guys won't pitch their tail off. And it doesn't mean that they won't produce runs. But I think the Astros need to score more than 2 or 3 or 4 runs to beat Seattle. We saw what they did to come back, one of the largest comebacks we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, and don't forget that the Astros have a lot of the all-time most played postseason games. You have Altuve, who's played 79 games in his career. That's tied for 4th. Then you have Bregman Gurriel tied for 7th with 73 postseason games overall. Then we've talked about this. Altuve has 23 career postseason homers, trailing only Manny Ramirez, who has 29. So the Astros did go 71-34 versus the Seattle Mariners since 2017, 39-17 at Minute Maid Park. But one thing that we didn't really talk about in the Saturday show was that the Astros got 7 of their wins versus the Mariners this year by 3 or fewer runs. So there wasn't a lot of blowouts. So that means there was about 5 games were considered more than 3 runs or something. So maybe blowouts. I don't know if you consider those blowouts or not, but that means that the Astros they didn't really outscore the Mariners. It was really some close baseball games, AKA it was some really playoff-like atmosphere, and that's probably going to help them. And see, the one thing is the Mariners have seen Justin Verlander a lot this year. He's pitched against them 6 times. Is that advantage Mariners? The Astros have seen Logan Gilbert. If he's the guy who gets the start versus the Astros in game 1, they have seen him 4 times this year with a 2.52 ERA, and they're only slugging 228, 283, 348 with a 631 OPS. Overall, Gilbert has a 13-6 record with a 3.20 ERA. Verlander, of course, is 18-4 on the season with a 1.75 ERA. He's 5-1 with a 2.34 ERA in 6 starts. Just imagine how good that ERA would be if it wasn't for that one start where Verlander gave up 6 runs.
And you can look at what the record is versus this team in the regular season. You can look at even what Luis Castillo did against the Blue Jays. But Logan Gilbert, I don't believe, pitched in that Blue Jays series. Logan Gilbert has never pitched in a playoff game. And we've seen Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, and now Chris Bassett go out there, and not like deGrom was the better of the 3. But those 3 pitchers give up long balls. They were the veterans. That was the team, Eric, that was supposed to take the National League by storm. Scherzer, right. DeGrom, who beats them? And Scherzer has playoff experience. DeGrom doesn't have as much as Scherzer, but Scherzer's been a World Series winning pitcher. So I'm saying that to say this, that although I'm not automatically negating Logan Gilbert's validity on the mound as being a tough opponent, he still has never faced this club in the postseason. This club in the postseason is a different animal. They know. And what's great is your young guys, even like Pena, Brown, David Hensley, if he's on there, these guys know what it's like because they've been around the winning all season long. And yeah, their bats have been a little suspect lately, but I think once you get the playoffs, it's a reset time. And they know exactly what it is they need to do. I'm very confident with the showing that we'll see in game 1 and 2.
All right. So they definitely need to secure their home, just like you need to secure your home with SimpliSafe.
Yeah, definitely. SimpliSafe is here to keep you safe, and the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know, because SimpliSafe is the number one choice for homeowners across the globe. They have 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And here's why people love it. With 24/7 monitoring, the agents call you the moment a threat is detected, and they dispatch the police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when the threat is real, and even hazardous sensors that sense and detect fires, floods, and threats to your home. Their monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm if the break-in is real. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonmlb to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
All right, so the Astros will be opening at home versus the Seattle Mariners, and the time is yet to be determined as of 8:44 on Sunday night. But the Padres are currently winning versus the Mets, and so here's the outcome. So let's talk about the situation. So, uh, Game 1 of the ALDS against the Mariners on Tuesday will start at either 2:05 or 2:37. If the Mets win, game 1 will start at 2:05. If the Padres win, the game will start at 2:37. Big whoop. It's like 30-minute difference
It's
there.
it's like a 30-minute basically. And look, don't act shocked and don't act mad, Astros fans, that the number one overall seed in the American League doesn't get prime time. The Yankees get prime time, and we'll get to see the Guardians take out the Yankees in prime time. That'll be great.
Right.
Did you hear what happened? Did you hear they let go of Aroldis Chapman? He missed a workout. He was supposed to throw, and he missed a workout, and they basically dismissed him.
Well, they
And
didn't let him go. They just said, "Don't worry about showing up." But they didn't fire him. They
I'm
just said, "Don't
I'm
don't worry about showing up for the playoffs."
Well, if he's not showing up for the playoffs, I'm pretty sure he's going to be gone after this. I thought that was, but what's funny is a lot of Yankees fans are like, yeah, DFA the guy. They're like, if we face the Astros, we don't want him throwing to Jose Altuve because you know what happens in the end. But the 2:37 start, it is what it is, folks. We aren't the New York market. We don't have Aaron Judge. We're not the darlings of MLB. It doesn't matter. The Astros don't care. I know some people are really upset because they're like, I've got to work and I can't take off and all those things. It just is a reality. When we get to the ALCS, when we get beyond that, then you can count on those evening games. Regardless, the Astros are going to be ready to show up. A good friend of mine, Paul, lives across the street, from there. And he said, I'm getting so pumped. He goes, I can see the video montages they're testing. I can hear the train. They're testing all the stadium sounds. He goes, I'm so excited. So playoff buzz is in the air in downtown Houston.
Well, it appears the Braves versus Phillies, they are in the bottom scale of they are playing at 12 o'clock that day. So at least we got the second game of the day. So that's something we have, Astros fans. If you got nothing, I mean, the Phillies and Braves, that's a epic rivalry there. So I would think that would be more prime time. But you got the Yankees, huh?
Soto just hit an RBI, scored 2 more runs. It's now San Diego 6-0.
Okay. Oh yeah, I don't think the Mets are going to win. It's just crazy how good this team should have been, and I just remember going to Kansas City for a golf trip and seeing a guy with the Mets T-shirt that says, "I just wanted." I forgot the clever remark, but I just want to see another World Series, and it's probably not going to be this year, guys. It's probably not going to be this year, but. Yeah, most likely it's going to be the Dodgers in the late game and the Yankees in the prime time at the 7 o'clock slot. So that's probably what it is.
That, and you know what? That makes sense. It's all about TV revenue, and guys, we'll get our primetime spot when the time is right. All right, we will do that. I promise you.
Yeah. So speaking of the time is right, I think the time is right for Justin Verlander to just come in and shine and do what he's supposed to do. I know that overall he's been really good. I did not know this, that he has not given up a home run in his last 58 2/3 innings pitched. So hopefully he continues that. Hopefully he sets the tone for the series. The Astros definitely need to go up 1-0 after game 1. And if it is going to be Logan Gilbert, which I doubt that they bring back Luis Castillo on 1 day, on 3 days rest or 4 days rest, whatever it is. I don't think that they're going to do that. So I think it's going to be Gilbert. Then day 2, game 2, especially with the off day, it's going to be Luis Castillo. But Verlander's done really good versus the Mariners. But I do want to kind of shift gears. We do need to talk offense in a little bit and like roster thing. But I do want to continue a conversation that we are having yesterday about game 2, because I still think that we kind of left that unfinished. So McCullers does have, like, looking at his career away, he's 21-21 with a 4.43 ERA. Home, he's 28-11 with a 2.65 ERA. So just by looking at those numbers, you would be like, yeah, I think that he should do that. So like yesterday we talked about versus Mariners, he's 10-3 with the 2.80 ERA with the 10.5 strikeouts per 9 inning. At Safeco Park or Field, whatever they call it. No, it's T-Mobile ballpark. That's what it's.
Yes. Hey, I made that mistake. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah. So it's he's 4-3 with a 2.66 ERA with 11 strikeouts per 9 inning. Valdez, on the other hand, he's 5-0 in his career versus the Mariners with a 1.94 ERA with 9.4 strikeouts per 9 inning. On the road at T-Mobile Park, he's 4-0 with a 1.64 ERA with 9.4 strikeouts per 9 inning. And the splits for his career, he's 20-9 at home with a 3.49 ERA. On the road, he's 21-14 with a 3.28 ERA. So those numbers just scream you got to go with McCullers in game 2.
I mean, that makes sense, and I wouldn't be upset if they went with McCullers in game 2. But I just think sometimes when Dusty likes to have his right, left, right thing going. And look, here's the thing.
Don't steal my line. The left, right
that's
thing.
not
The right, left.
That's not my line. That's Dusty's line. You took it from him. Anyways, Cal Riley is a guy that you absolutely have to watch out for.
Right.
This guy is on fire. JP Crawford's hitting the ball well. I'm not worried about like Kelnick. Ty France is definitely a threat. Brian Reynolds. So whoever goes in game 2, McCullers, he's got to have his breaking pitches. He's got to have his command, and he's got to eliminate the walks. He's got to up the strikeouts and miss the bats. Framber Valdez, I think, is perfect for going on the road. But, this is a great problem to have because you have 2 guys who essentially could be an ace on just about any ball club. You actually have 4 pitchers that technically you could make the argument for Christian Javier being an ace on several ball clubs, especially this year. And the Astros pitchers know one thing. They know that they have a defense behind them, that if they give up hits and that if they give up a run or two, that they have a defense behind them to help them stay in the game. They have hitters at the plate that can produce runs at a moment's notice, and they have a relief pitching staff that will come in and toe the line. So if things get close, you've got your Stanek, you've got your Neris, you've got your Monteros. You may have your playoff Matan, and hopefully he's playoff Matan and not regular Matan. But Eric, I'm still going with Jay asked us earlier, is Hunter Brown going to be on this roster? They haven't announced the rosters, but I would be shocked if he was left off. I would not be shocked if we saw Luis Garcia and Jose Urquidy left off simply because they're starters, and I don't think there's a place to put them in a starting role in this series. Luis Garcia, out of the 2, would be the only one I think would make that, but that would mean a Matan or a Will Smith would be off. They love their left-handed reliever. I know I've said it because I'm not a big fan.
is basically lefty too.
He's basically lefty, but the 45 hits and 48 innings by Will Smith is not comforting, especially if Will Smith is coming in to maybe stop something. But you know what's weird? I have full confidence. If you bring Hunter Brown in with a guy on first base and 1 out, and it's a 2-run game, I'm putting Hunter Brown out there. I'm letting him strike out the side. I'm letting him get out of that inning. And heck, maybe even going in, if it's towards the bottom of the lineup, letting him pitch to 3 more batters at least, and giving him some solid playoff experience. So the game 1, I think, sets the tone, but I think game 2, if it's McCullers, he comes out firing. This guy's ready. And that's what I love what Dusty said. And you mentioned his comments. Like, whenever Dusty comes to the mound, Lance is like, I want to pitch. I don't want to leave. I'm on the mound. I'm pitching, kind of like leave me alone. And he said, I love that mentality from McCullers. I never doubt where he is mentally in the game. So McCullers may be that guy. McCullers may be that bulldog. And I think that's a good call if they make it. It's just something tells me they're going to go Framber game 2. But Lance McCullers makes a whole heck of a lot of sense.
I mean, if you're looking at the typical manager, what the typical manager would do, it would be Framber Valdez in game 2 just to switch up things. But if you're looking at analytics and what the data says, and I'm sure the Astros have more data than we do, like basically batter versus pitcher, like who's had success at home versus Framber Valdez, who had success on the road versus Lance McCullers. And so that's something to keep in consideration. But one guy who could be X factor for the Mariners is one of their older guys, Carlos Santana. Would you believe that he has the most home runs off of Justin Verlander in his career? He's got 9 home runs with a career 15 RBIs and an OPS of 927. Yes, his batting average is only 226, but it's off of Justin Verlander. And he also has the most extra base hits off of Justin Verlander in his career. So that's kind of his David Eckstein to Billy Wagner. That's kind of the guy that's kind of been a pain of his butt his whole career. So that guy, I know he's kind of long in the tooth, but still somebody who can really make an impact in this series. So
and
don't look past that.
Yeah, and that's one thing they do, Eric, is they look at matchups. We know that, and they are going with that, and it works at times, and sometimes it doesn't. Just like Simber going in for the Blue Jays, he only had like 13 walks in like 74 innings. He walked his first 2 batters, and I mean, you've got to be in the moment, and I really want people to go back and listen to Ryan Stanek's interview because we talked about. When people say, oh, well, we should have used this guy or we should have used that guy. And sometimes they get warmed up and they don't actually make it in. And that kind of throws their rhythm off because they get amped up and that adrenaline starts flowing. And what Stanek said is if you get guys up and then set them down, if you put them in later or put them in the next day and you don't give them that rest, he goes, you can risk injury. You can get a guy out of rhythm. And he said it really does have a greater effect than what you think. The thing is, the playoffs are not always about the stars, and we know that. The playoffs are not always about the guys that have the most home runs in the playoffs. The playoffs sometimes are about those unsung heroes. And I'm thinking you're going to see Aledmys Diaz. You're going to see David Hensley if he's on this roster. You're going to see Chas McCormick. You're going to see Jake Myers. You're going to see some of these guys, Jeremy Pena, show up on the scene. And who knows, maybe Jeremy Pena becomes a playoff stud. Maybe he comes into the playoffs and is absolutely nails. But at the end of the day, you need at least 4 or 5 of your guys in your lineup doing what they need to do. You need those other guys. Look, if guys around Bregman are getting hits, he needs to see pitches and get on base so that produces, when you get on base, you have a higher chance of getting home. I really, really am excited about this game to see what they do because this is a playoff atmosphere and it's different than the regular season. Oh, and Trey, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cal Raleigh, he's actually on fire this postseason. He's got a 1556 OPS. Granted, it's only 2 games, so it's a small sample size, but he has 1 home run, 3 RBIs, 4 hits, and 8 at-bats. And so he's hitting cleanup for the Mariners. Then you have Eugenio Suarez. He's batting 444 with a 1111 OPS, and he doesn't have a home run, but he has 2 RBIs. Then you have Carlos Santana with a home run, batting 250 with the 1083 OPS. And so you have some of the Mariners kind of leading. Then Adam Frazier is actually having a good spring postseason. I actually said something bad on the Talking Astros podcast. I said, well, he's part of the bad part of the Mariners order, but he's actually batting 444 with 1,000 OPS. He doesn't have any home runs. He has an RBI and a double. and he has 4 hits and 2 at bats. But I think that's has a lot to do with what happened in Game 2. Don't forget that they had to score a lot of runs to come back from being down 7 runs or something, and so it was an epic comeback for them to beat the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are a good team. They had a great offense, and everything had to go right for the Mariners to actually win that game like they did. But now here we are. We're going to face a good team with a good starting rotation, not as good as the Astros, a good bullpen, not as good as the Astros bullpen, but the bullpen is better than the Mariners, as we saw in the wild card series.
Yeah, Mr. Suarez here, Eugenio Suarez has been quite the pest with the Houston Astros all season long. He has been hitting and he continues to hit. So he is one of those guys you have to respect. Another thing we have to remember is you've got Julio Rodriguez, who was 0 for 4 in his last game against Toronto, but you've got him and Jeremy Pena, and at one time they were 1 and 1A in the Rookie of the Year conversation. We know Pena had a big drop off in that conversation overall. Julio Rodriguez, I think, stays in it, but I think Bobby Witt Jr. or Adley Rutschman actually take away Rookie of the Year. But you've got these two top 10 rookies, and earlier I said Brian Reynolds. For some reason, I get Brian Reynolds and Adam Frazier mixed up. I do not know why I get those two players mixed up, but I do. And so that is who I was talking about, as Adam Frazier. And Eric, that's a great catch with Santana, because sometimes being a veteran, sometimes being an older player is actually a good thing. I mean, we've seen guys in the past that are older players, Ross for the Cubs, Todd Frazier when he was with the Yankees. I mean, these guys come in and they're postseason heroes. Brian McCann with the Astros in 2017 had a home run in a game that was a key moment. So you don't have a ton of old veterans on this team, but you have plenty of veterans that have plenty of length in their playoff careers that I believe that they are going to contribute.
All right, so Adrian asks, what is the Astros' key to success against the Mariners? It's going to be good pitching. You're going to have to limit the offense. You're going to have to score some runs. You can't just rely on Alvarez, Altuve, Tucker. You're going to have to get some offense from Pena. Pena has been swinging a hot bat, especially in the past, 10 days. He's been doing great. You need to get a little bit more from Yuli Gurriel. You got to get a little bit more from Trey Mancini. I know you're trying to say something about him earlier. He's probably going to get the start in Game 1, and we'll see who gets the start in Game 2, maybe Leibniz Diaz at DH. But we're probably going to see a lot of Alvarez in left field just to get that extra bat in the lineup at DH. So that way you don't see Chas McCormick and Dubon, or Chas McCormick and Jake Myers in the outfield. I think that they just want to get more of a power bat out there. And I know Leibniz Diaz can play left field as well, but I think the Astros are comfortable with Alvarez's arm out there, and that he can get the, especially at Minute Park, you're comfortable with him with Justin Verlander on the mound, and if Framber Valdez or McCullers are on the mound, you're comfortable with him in left field.
Yeah, I think the keys to the Astros' success against Seattle are going to be, if you're not jumping on the pitcher early, you're forcing him to pitch. You are not swinging at pitches outside of the zone. So you're upping that pitch count early. You want Logan Gilbert to get to quite a few, I would love to see a 20 to 30 pitch first inning. I think that would be a huge, solid foundation for the Astros hitters, because then you see more pitches. Possibly you get a run or two out of that, and just kill momentum at the beginning of the game, squash that bug right there, and then let Justin Verlander come out there with the lead when he starts out. I think forcing the Mariners pitchers to pitch more than they need to limited pitch innings, like someone said, no 7 pitch innings, and then the bats don't necessarily have to drop 4 or 5 runs an inning, but if they can score 1 or 2 in the first, 1 or 2 in the third, 1 or 2 in the fifth, you know what I'm saying? Like every other inning, score a run, get a guy to second, drive a guy in, and I think that right there gets you to Justin Verlander closes it down, shuts it down in the 6th inning. You bring in your bullpen, and you go home victorious after Game 1.
Yeah, and somebody says no Dubon, please. If we're gonna believe what Dusty Baker says, That is Justin Verlander's personal center fielder. I would love to see Chas McCormick in center field. I think that his bat is needed more, but you already have Alvarez in left field, and you might wanted the better defender out there in center field. And so I think that if you're going to sacrifice the defense in left field, you can't sacrifice the defense in center field. And that's what I think is going through the Astros' minds there. So not that I think Chas McCormick by any means is a terrible center fielder. I just think that in the Astros' minds, Dubon it has a better arm. He may have the better range and everything, but I would love to see Chas McCormick out there. The more offense out there, the better. I mean, looking at the Astros lineup, I have Jose Altuve, Pena, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, Gurriel, Mancini in the first game, probably Dubon or Chas McCormick, and then Martin Maldonado. The bottom of three of the lineup is not too beautiful.
But when Martin Maldonado hits a home run, what do the Astros do? They win. And Martin Maldonado hit a career high in home runs. And yes, we know that his bat is not like the marquee bat in the lineup. But the playoffs are not always about the stars. The bottom of the lineup for the Padres has been the absolute reason why they are probably going to complete this series and move on to the NLDS in their bracket. It hasn't been their superstars. It has been the bottom of their lineup. The bottom of the lineup has a chance to wake up here. This is a time when your adrenaline is flowing, and especially if the top of your hitters are hitting, or you know what, if your hitters aren't hitting 1 through 5, the bottom of the lineup's like, you know what, I've got this. Put it on my back. Let me take it. And I really think that no matter who's in there, that they're going to go out there and execute in excellent fashion. So let's just hope that the key moments happen, that the unsung heroes show up, and that those who know what to do and win baseball games with the most experienced playoff team in all of baseball goes out and simply takes care of business.
Jeff G says, I love that Jake hasn't played enough time this year to earn any significant playing time in the postseason. I doubt that. I think that if they like the matchups, you'll probably see him as a defensive replacement for Alvarez late in the game. But I think you're going to see a lot of Jake Myers. If he's on the roster, they're going to find a way to use him defensively because that's why he would make the team, or as he is fast, so he may be a pinch runner for Martin Maldonado as well.
He's been hitting. I would think you would use him as a pinch hitter too because he can still run. And so it's going to be interesting. Right. It's going to be interesting to see, but I still think it's 12 pitchers. I still think Hunter Brown's on there. I still think either Will Smith, Matan, or Urquidy are one of those are the three that I think get left off. I think Garcia possibly squeaks on there, but Garcia's in that mix. And again, just because I say Garcia and Urquidy aren't on this roster, it doesn't mean I disrespect them. It's that I respect the fact that we are only in a 5-game series, and you don't want to put them in a relief pitching situation because you don't have to. You've got one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. And all you need to do is your starting pitchers, give me 5 solid, give me 6 solid, give it to the bullpen, let them bring it home. Let Presley close it out and move on to game 2.
I mean, if you look at the Astros bullpen, I'm trying to find the ERA. That's AL. Sorry, I had the wrong thing up. So the Astros, I don't want the playoffs. It keeps on giving me the playoffs. I want the regular season. So the Astros bullpen ERA that was last year. I want 2022. Give me a second. I had this up. I swear. So the Astros, I thought it was 280. Yeah, the Astros ERA of the bullpen was 280. The Seattle Mariners ERA in the bullpen is 3.33. So that's a huge advantage for the Astros. No matter who's in the bullpen, most of the season you had somebody with a sub-4 ERA pitching in the Astros bullpen. So that's a big advantage. And like I said on Talking Stros podcast, I mean, most teams, like we saw with the Blue Jays, they brought in their other guy in the playoffs. Our other guy is still better than most other teams, guys. So Maton, I know we don't like Maton, but he is really good against left-handed hitters.
It's called recency bias. Look, if a guy recently is stinking it up, of course people are going to be against him.
Right.
And yes, MZ says the Mariners are a dangerous team. Look, we're in the playoffs. Everybody's dangerous. We're in the playoffs. You respect your opponent. The one thing the Astros aren't doing is going, hey, we have 5 straight ALCS, and we're going to go like we're just going to go do our thing, and people are just going to fall at our feet because we're the Astros and worship us. No. But there's something we haven't talked about that I want to talk about before we go. Jeremy Pena, the other night, said H-Town Country. What is H-Town Country? Is that a new thing?
It's H-Town Country. It's all around here.
No, it's not. No, it's not even that. No, that's worse. No, I just heard H-Town Country. I was like, was that planned? I don't know. I just,
There's
look,
nothing wrong with that. He's just saying.
I don't know. It was just, well, I've literally never heard that. Classic rookie move. It was like he just H-Town baby or something. He was like, it's H-Town Country. I just never heard that. I mean, am I the only one that like scratched my head when I heard him say that? I thought it was funny. Look, man, if you can't laugh at yourself and if you can't joke at things you say, because I know I mess up and say stuff all the time. I just think it's great when these professional athletes, they show a little realness to them, like H-Town Country. And I'm like, what?
I saw that, but it wasn't a big deal. He was in the moment. He was feeling it, and he just let it out. So I'm fine with it. So
Letting them off the hook.
last year in the playoffs, the Astros bullpen had a 3.07 ERA. So not too bad. So anyway, that's all we got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Tomorrow, we will be crossing over with the Locked On Seattle guys, and we'll be previewing the matchups. Hopefully, we'll kind of know a little bit more about who's going to be on the roster, who's going in game 1, game 2, all that. But for now, my name is Eric Huysman. You can find me at Eric Talk Stros. You can find Brett at H-Town Wheelhouse. We are the Locked On Astros podcast. And if you can't get enough baseball talk during the playoffs, go check out Sully over at the Locked On MLB podcast. And he does a great job just summarizing everything. And I'm sure he's going to have a fun day talking about the ear, the umpires feeling up the ear and everything, and then on Joe Musgrove. So we'll see you tomorrow, and I'm getting excited about the ALDS. And once again, go Astros.